It's January 12th, 2019. I'm Justin Castelli. This is
Leo Castelli.
And this is All About Your Benjamins and your weekly mixtape and weekend review video. As you can see, we've got a different backdrop today. We have a little bit of snow in Fishers, which canceled this guy's basketball game. How do you feel about that?
Sad.
Sad. What, are we going to play outside in the snow and try to have some other fun? Yeah, so the snow came in, decided, you know what, I'm not going to drive into the office this morning. I'll just do it from the basement. So here we are going over the news and headlines that are impacting your financial plan and your investments over the last week. And the first one is the government shutdown. Did you know the government's shut down partially?
What is that?
It means that some of the people in the government aren't working because there's not enough money to pay them.
What is a government?
It's who runs our country. We'll have that conversation later. So government shutdown continues on. This is the longest one in history at 22 days, and really it's all still hung up on the funding for the wall. So no end in sight. Both sides are fighting and sticking to their guns about not funding, and then not willing to budge on the funding for the wall. So we'll have to watch and see where this goes. One of the things that I think is worth noting in an effort to potentially fund the wall, President Trump is, I won't necessarily say threatening, that's an aggressive word, but maybe exploring the option of filing a national emergency, state of emergency, to divert funds from other areas in the budget to pay for the wall. And I mention this just because if this does happen, which maybe it won't and maybe it will, but if it does happen, I think it's a bit of a slippery slope from a perception standpoint. I'm not necessarily worried at this point that President Trump will continue to issue state of emergencies to be able to move money around to do what he wants to do, as some people might threaten and say that's what's going to happen, but more of a perception to what's going on here and the rule of law. So Josh Brown had a great post. It's down in the mixtape. Definitely check it out. But talking about the importance of law and trust when it comes to the stock market. As you'll read, he shares that the U.S. stock market is the most trusted market in the world, and a lot of that is because there are laws in place and checks and balances. But if we have the president doing things to get his way, that may change that perception, and who knows what that means for the markets. So no need to panic on that, but I definitely think that's a reason to pay attention and know what's going on and see what's happening on that front. And finally, last thing about the shutdown, last week I mentioned that there was an article stating that the IRS probably would not be returning our refunds if you get a refund on time. The IRS came out this week and said business will move on as usual regardless of the shutdown. They're going to call employees back and have them work until they can pay them later. Be interested to see how much the employees at the IRS love their job and whether or not they're ready to come back and work for free, or if they're starting to put feelers out there and maybe try to find a job somewhere else. Have no idea, but nonetheless, the IRS is saying that they're going to be on schedule, so there should be no delay in your tax returns. We will have to wait and see. Moving on from the shutdown, let's go to the markets, because that's one of the things that a lot of people care about. The markets this week were up. Did you know the stock market was up?
No.
Nope, good. You're not supposed to pay attention. We had a good week in the markets, rebound from the end of the year. The narrative changes so quickly nowadays with all the information that we have out there. I think that will continue, and I think this is what a normal market is like anyways, the ups and downs. So hopefully you're not paying too much attention at home. You'll drive yourself crazy with week to week, day to day, the changes in the narrative. But nonetheless, the markets have recovered. If you're watching this or listening to this, chances are you're much like myself and you believe in the long-term plan of an investment strategy and buying and holding and diversification and rebalancing, all the basics and fundamentals to a portfolio that is not impacted by day-to-day movements or week-to-week movements or even month-to-month movements. So hopefully you're able to tune out all of this noise. We go over this so you know what you're hearing and why it's going on, but don't pay too much attention to the headlines. Go on about saving and enjoying life, spending time with your loved ones, and let the headlines be what they are. Let's move forward to the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve Chairman Powell came out and reaffirmed his flexible language from the end of the year, which is one of the things that we could say, I guess beginning of the year, that we could say has helped the market. I won't say it's the only cause, many factors there, but it's definitely a narrative that has been able to help the bulls in the market recover with the stocks. So he came out, kept the flexibility word in there, that the Fed will be flexible going through the year when it comes to raising rates and monitoring everything. I, for one, have no issues with flexibility. I prefer flexibility, having more options. Why be rigid? Because there's things that happen that we don't know about, and you have to go back and make changes. So flexibility allows you to adapt. I like that the Fed is being more flexible, and I like to have flexibility in the financial planning that I'm doing with clients and just in life in general. Like today, game is canceled, so we're flexible and we go do something else and have a good day despite the snowy weather. A couple of smaller headlines. First, Slack, which is an app that I know, use, love dearly. I have multiple Slack feeds up for my firm, for my own blog, for my podcast with Kevin and Reversion to the Mean, a study group. I have a bunch of channels. I love Slack. It's an app that is basically a way to replace email communication within an organization or a group. Well, they announced that they're going to be going public, but they're going not go through the traditional IPO, and they're going to go through a direct listing. So Spotify did this. Slack will be the second big company to go through a direct listing. I only mention this because, one, I love the app. Two, it'd be interesting to see if this is going to be a reoccurring theme, that these more, let's say, further along in the business cycle firms, rather than going through the expensive IPO process, just go direct listing to save money to get their shares out there. And finally, if you're looking to buy a new home, mortgage rates are coming down. They're at 8-month lows. Just thought I would throw that out there. We talk about rates going up, and we see our savings rates going up, and for a while, borrowing rates, the expense of borrowing went up. Mortgage rates have come down, the 30 years come down, so if you're looking to buy a home, that may not be a bad thing for you. That's all I've got this week from the headlines. Leo, do you have anything else?
No.
No? Okay, all right. Well, let me wrap this up. We'll go up and make some cinnamon rolls, and we'll get on with our day. So thanks for watching. Be sure to check out all of the blog posts below in the mixtape. Be sure to subscribe to the blog, to the podcast. If you have an Amazon device, make sure you get on the flash briefing from RLS Wealth Management. That is my company, so All About Your Benjamins and RLS Wealth Management are siblings. They go together. So be sure to subscribe to that flash briefing, and we will see you in the next episode. Good job, bud. Thanks.